Today we're going to talk about how a concussion can impact your physiological system. So I'm Dr. Sarah Sewell from Resilience RX, and the content this month revolves around concussions. So the first week we introduced the three main areas that a concussion tends to affect: physiological, vestibulo-ocular, and cervicogenic. Those sound really fancy, but they sound much more intimidating than they actually are. Tonight we're going to talk about the physiological component of it. If you want to break this down to the basics, it simply means that as your heart rate elevates, your brain becomes increasingly, it's more taxing on the brain. So it's harder for that brain to function in a post-concussion state. Simply being because a concussion is a metabolic injury, so the brain cannot generate enough energy to perform its specific tasks. When you increase the heart rate, you're increasing the demand on the brain and you're forcing it to process things quicker, which is more difficult in someone who is experiencing concussion-related symptoms. Because of this, one of the best ways to kind of test threshold is to work up to when symptoms start, to know when they start, and then to continue to where symptoms are on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is no symptoms and 10 is an extremely high level of symptoms where you have to sit down and take a break. You want to work up to about a 5-ish. So enough to be uncomfortable, enough to want to take a break, but not so much that you're incapable of functioning. At that point, that's kind of your threshold. So then after that, the homework then becomes increasing your heart rate up to that threshold, waiting for it to come back down to normal, and then increasing it again. As you do this over time, your threshold increases. So for me, in my last concussion that I had, this started at a really low level. It started with walking around my apartment for 2 minutes. That was enough activity to increase my blood pressure enough and my heart rate enough that my brain was not functioning well. After about a day or two of walking for 2 minutes, I was able to increase it to 4 minutes and 5 minutes, and there became tracks in the carpet on our apartment floor. But it gradually increased to where I could actually go for a walk outside. And then later on, you can progress to jogging, to running, to jumping, etc. The higher the demand is on the heart rate, the harder it is going to be for the brain to tolerate that activity in a post-concussive state, if the brain is sensitive to that. So that's the key component. Not everyone's concussion responds similarly. So there are those three main categories. Some people have absolutely no physiological symptoms. They can tolerate increased heart rate very well. Other people really struggle, like I did, and it takes them a long time. So that's kind of the overview of one of the three main categories of how concussions can affect symptoms on everyday life. Stay tuned for the next few that are coming in the coming weeks.